All right, welcome to this installment of Grammar Support. We are looking at verbs and how you can use that Control F feature in Word or Command F if you're on an Apple to be able to help you locate some of the common verbs that might be holding you back just a little bit. So as always, we're going to start with our screen share. Let me take this to our full screen here. All right, so we're going to cover dead verbs, active verbs, and problem verbs. If you remember from our lecture, active versus passive voice, this is just another tool you can use to make sure you have that active voice. So this is one of my favorite parts to do in person, because I never know if you're actually doing this part when I'm not right there. You're going to sing with me. Oh my gosh, yes, your professor is crazy. It's okay. Trust me, it's going to help you remember this just a little bit more. So these verbs are overused. They have been used so much that they are no longer viable. They need buried. So we are going to ferry them across to the river Styx. Ready? These are dead verbs. MRB. Had, has, have. Is, was, were, any verb ending in ing. And the sense verbs. Look, smells, taste, sounds, and feel. Pause that, go back as many times as you want, sing along, doesn't matter. Fact of the matter is, because this is goofy, you are going to remember it just a little bit more. The point is, when you have a paper, you should really do that Control F or Command F function, and then do a search for these words. Count up, how many do you have for each one? How many times did you use each of these words? Honestly, you don't want that many in there. If you said that you have, 20 instances of the word is, you have a very passive paper, and you need to fix it. So see if you can eliminate some of these words in your writing. Next, we are going to go to the ICU. These verbs are not quite dead, but they are very much on their last leg. So we are going to say our farewells to them in our writing. Become, became. When I was younger, you were very becoming in my writing, but it became evident that I could not choose you any longer. I am so sorry, goodbye. These are almost like breakup letters, honestly. Act and acted, oh, I acted a fool when we first met and I used you all the time, and I cannot act that way any longer, so farewell. Seem and seemed, you seemed like a good idea, and now it no longer seems to be a good thing to have you in my writing, so I will say adieu. Make and made, oh, back when I was in elementary school, you made my writing, but you cannot make it anymore. I'm so sorry. Goodbye. Exist and existed. You cannot exist in my writing anymore if I want to reach a more professional level. And resemble and resembled. When I was in middle school, you made my writing resemble something strong, but not anymore. And so, goodbye. I know it seems goofy, but honestly, when you have something like that, it really does stick in your brain just a little bit better. So do the Control F or the Command F and see if you can find these words in your writing. We are going to move on to a little bit different segment. Stephanie there, is that what you said? Call back with a verb and maybe she will be. Anyone catch what the caller did wrong? You said they left out the word is. You are correct. you do need that verb to have a complete sentence. So I want you to stop and think, what are some of the most common mistakes when selecting the correct verb? What do you see yourself doing well with your verbs? And what do you think might need to be worked on when it comes to your verbs and verb usage? Well, this is one of my favorites. Sorry, ma'am, but bad grammar is no excuse for vandalism. While I completely understand where this English professor is coming from, or English teacher, maybe it's an elementary school teacher who is very well versed in grammar, and it just made her snap. There are advertisements, and there has been a trend toward mainstream media, social media, advertising of having poor grammar as a catchphrase or as something that's catchy and really makes it stand out to the audience. The unfortunate side effect is that you, the audience, get that ingrained in your brain, and all of a sudden you think it's right. And that is where we have some issues that have been creeping in, is because when you see it all the time, it becomes second nature, and it becomes that place in your mind that says, oh, this is right, when it's not. So learning those correct formats for verbs and learning how to use them correctly and strongly really will give you a leg up. And one of my favorites, this is, so there are different regions where you might hear verbs being used incorrectly, and in dialect, it's correct. Why? Because it's regional, and that is correct for that region. However, in writing, it is not correct. Unless, of course, you're trying to mimic the dialect in a fictional piece, but that's something else entirely. So, for the word seen, you do have to have that helper verb. Have, as in you have seen, or I have seen, or she has seen. Make sure you have the correct one, the correct variation to go with that. Just one of those things, again, where if we are constantly hearing it or we're constantly seeing it, we think it's correct. And I promise you, in writing, it is not. Again, unless you're trying to mimic dialect, that's something else entirely. So for the love of good grammar, you saw, not seen, the new show last night. Another common mistake that I will often see in student papers is subject and verbs not agreeing, and sometimes it's because you're not quite sure where that cut for the subject predicate is. You know, which one is the object of the preposition, which one's actually my real simple subject. You have to be able to find that simple subject in order to know if your verb agrees, and that's the importance of understanding that subject predicate. So here, the big dog run. And of course, the student has said, my subject and verb have agreed to disagree. Well, in your writing, that's not gonna cut. Make sure you know where that break is between your subject and your predicate, and that you understand what that simple subject is so that you can make the correlation to have the agreement. So here you could either have the big dogs run, or you can have the big dog runs. Either one is correct, but what is here is not. So make sure you know and you're able to line it up correctly. And one of my favorites, the difference between lay and lie, we have some irregular verbs, and I'm going to tell you, if you have a problem with irregular verbs, maybe you want to use the thesaurus instead. It's quite helpful most of the time. So lay down, Rudy, lay down, and lie down. Lay down. I thought you were learning obedience, and the dog is better at grammar than the human. It's lie down. I thought you were learning grammar. Yay. I know. I'm weird. I like my grammar jokes. But really putting this into practice, if you look through your paper, any of your papers, and you're able to find these items, what's going to happen is you're going to be able to start recognizing it sooner in your writing. You're going to know to watch for it in your writing, and you're going to enhance your writing. So one thing I'd really like to see for my students and for anyone else who might be watching this is I would like to see you use this to strengthen your writing. And one last note, if you are writing a personal narrative or you are writing a fictional piece, please also do that Control F for begin, began, or start, started. Eliminate that from your fiction and your personal narratives, and your writing will explode. Just get straight to the point on that. Basically, strong active verbs are really what's going to help you out. And in order to find those things, again, Control F or a Command F if you're on an Apple, to be able to find those items and really start pinpointing what your specific writing tell is. And a writing tell is something that stands out as uniquely yours, that you overuse, and all writers have them, even beginning writers. So see if you can find yours in your verb usage. All right, guys, I'll catch you on the flip side.